Well, how amazing was that? A wrap for Bionics Queensland Challenge for 2022. What an amazing event, amazing entrance, an incredible amount of work, and just such a wonderful experience seeing the work these teams are undertaking to change lives, change the world, and really take Bionics solutions forward and build amazing businesses that really have such a huge impact to so many people suffering from a myriad of conditions that unless you're close to the problem, you don't even appreciate it there sometimes. But by combining all of these different technologies, engineering, software, etc., they're able to bring together a solution that could potentially lead to amazing breakthroughs. Thank you to everyone for their efforts. But today, we're here to celebrate the winners. We're going to be announcing those winners. And Robin, I'd like to get your thoughts just on some of those teams that we've had the pleasure of hearing from, the work that they're undertaking, and tell us about some of the exciting things that they've done.
I think, Mark, of course, this year we've had a massive focus on road accident, trauma and injury. Our major theme for this year's challenge was around bionic innovations to address road accident, injury, related disability or chronic disease. And we've seen across the spectrum from bionic mobility to brain-computer interfaces, to bionic implants and other innovations, we've seen just such an array of innovations this year. When we look to the Motor Accident Insurance Commission funded projects, we've seen winners come through this year, which are looking at the rehabilitation phase. There's a number of projects been part of the competition which relate to e-stimulation for people that are suffering from paralysis, spinal cord injury, and other projects, of course, that look to bionic implants in terms of scaffold structures, for example, that enable faster progression for healing when it comes to injuries and wounds, for example, that come from trauma and injury as well. So, Mark, it's been a really diverse competition. We've got closed-loop neuromodulation devices. The Queensland Brain Institute's been a part of this competition this year, and here we're seeing a diversity of brain-related degenerative diseases as well as trauma being impacted by that particular device that's come from the QBI team. And we've seen a number of other innovations as well that relate to, for example, devices that are wearables to help monitor stress-induced epilepsy and in turn obviously impact those treatments, if you like, that come from that diagnostic side of things. Diagnostics, wearables, treatments, as well as medical devices have featured in this year's challenge. And this, of course, we've got the National Bionics Innovation Prize sponsored by Morgans Financial that's seen some of these outstanding innovations with entrants from several states of Australia, from Victoria, Queensland, New South Wales, and the Queensland competition very, very much focused on that road accident trauma theme. We've seen all universities almost involved in this. We've seen regional universities as well as the major universities in Queensland playing a role. A great innovation in terms of rehabilitation from James Cook University in North Queensland, looking at the management of apathy in post-trauma patients. Looking at the use of VR and AR as well as robotics and home-based rehabilitation systems with that particular project. We've also seen an e-stimulation project from Central Queensland University in collaboration with University of Queensland researchers and others. That's been a really interesting innovation looking at training and the uptake of technology at the level of the clinics. And that's another thing with the key stakeholders being involved in these projects. Obviously, end users, the people that really are going to benefit most, they are central to these projects and teams. I loved the fact that we heard from Leanne in Rockhampton that was actually a spinal cord injury a patient and has continued to seek innovations and solutions to her condition after some 30, 35, 40 years of having that injury. and then now finding e-stimulation can deliver such benefits, if you like, for her condition. So look, it's been a real kaleidoscope of innovations that will make a difference. The Griffith University-led project with smart garments, Mark, I mean, I guess the Smarty Pants, as it's called, project, with electrodes, obviously looking at that muscle stimulation, really at the cutting edge of where we're seeing smart garments really starting to make a difference.
And the combination of software with hardware, with the data collected, the insights and the analysis that follows, that leads to ever improving solutions and further insights that help evolve these solutions as well. I think you mentioned Leanne joining the call as a sufferer of a condition, and I think 29 years in a wheelchair. And it's very quick and easy to talk about these solutions, but gee, it brings it home when you meet a person who is living a life that will be improved with the success of some of these treatments, and it's very real. It's a very real outcome, and that's why the support of the Motor Accident Insurance Commission and Morgans Financial helping these teams to bring that success forward, so we start helping people sooner. So it's very, very exciting, and not only that, I think the broader community, the broader connections and people that are involved, that are touched by or affected by. And are interested in bionics research, and so it's just so wonderful that this isn't some esoteric hoped-for future. These are solutions that are some small number of years away before they start being seen in people's lives. So terribly exciting, very worthy, very supportable and investable business ideas, and just so excited to see some of those winners announced today.
And look, I think with the innovations that we've seen today, some of these teams still need quite some support in terms of mentoring, advice on regulatory processes, advice on how to manage the intellectual property side of things, and obviously attract more funds in order to accelerate these devices and treatments to market. So that's where Bionics Queensland will play a very strong role now that the challenge is finalised, both with the winners and also those other leading innovations that entered this competition that perhaps were a hair's breadth away from winning prizes. We will be actually building that relationship, continuing our links with those teams, because this is about building an ecosystem. It's about really transforming lives, and we will support all teams, or every team, to make that progress in the coming months and years.
Absolutely. So it is a kickstart, and these funds are not substantial enough that they might bring these solutions to the market, but by gee, they get them quickly to the next step and get them up and out, and that's a massive leg up for these projects at this point in time. So certainly very material support. So looking forward to seeing the response from those winners when they're announced. And Robin, tell us what's next. So from here, as you say, it's not the end of the road by any stretch. So now that we have the winners announced, what is the next few weeks, and what can we expect to see from here on in?
Look, we have a very strong role in showcasing these projects, showcasing them nationally, ensuring, I suppose, that we take the opportunity through the Bionics Challenge to educate the wider community about medical bionics. We want to be sure that as the years progress, that if you're a farmer in Western Queensland, or indeed if you're sitting in an office right in the middle of Sydney, you equally have the opportunity to understand what medical bionic innovations exist. If by chance you have a loved one or are impacted yourself by road accident trauma, chronic disease, the disease side of things, there's many innovations coming through. We've seen neurobionic treatments talked about, and the neuromodulation system from the Queensland Brain Institute. These are impacting not just trauma, but also dementia and the future management of life-changing conditions, such as we've seen with dementia, with epilepsy, obviously, which is a chronic health condition for life for some people. We've seen advances here really in neurobionics that will also assist the outcomes for people with Parkinson's disease and other conditions. So I think, to be honest, from Bionics Queensland's perspective, we look out from Queensland to the nation in terms of how we engage, and also with offshore connections. We're looking ahead to 2032 in the Olympics in Queensland, looking at how we can not only uplift human capabilities and restore human abilities with these devices and treatments, but also look at just how we can engage nationally and globally to really start to see some significant advances in what Australia brings to the world with medical bionics.
Today, the Motor Accident Insurance Commission is announcing the winners of Bionics Challenge 2022, a unique Queensland-led competition designed to fast-track medical bionic innovations to change the lives of those living with serious injuries or loss of vital functions as a result of road trauma, disabilities and chronic disease. As the regulator of the Queensland CTP scheme, we are proud supporters of breakthrough medical devices, treatments and technologies discoveries that reduce the mental and physical toll of road trauma. In partnership with MACE, Bionics Challenge 2022 has awarded $200,000 in major category prizes and $40,000 in early stage bionic innovation awards. With valuable funds provided by their Bionics Challenge win, 7 outstanding teams are set to fast-track innovations across a wide spectrum of bionic mobility and rehabilitation technologies, diagnostic devices and neurobionic treatments for traumatic brain injury and stress-induced epilepsy, plus bionic implants that accelerate healing and regeneration of damaged nerves. It gives me great pleasure to announce the following major category prize winners. A standout contestant in this year's Bionics Challenge is Queensland Brain Institute Professor Susanna Tighe's intelligent closed-loop neuromodulation system that will enable adjustable, situation-specific brain stimulation for individuals impacted by traumatic brain injury that in turn increases the risk of treatment-resistant depression, PTSD, suicide and dementia. Professor Tighe, with her esteemed collaborators in the Asia Pacific Neuromodulation Centre, will receive a $70,000 major prize to progress this important work. At Griffith University on the Gold Coast, the creation of new sensor-embedded smart garments by Bradley Cornish, Dr. Claudio Pizzolato and team, combined supported by AI and neuromuscular modelling, will be rewarded with a $40,000 cash prize. This innovation and related technology will remove the guesswork for clinical practitioners, giving them real-time biofeedback on biomarkers to inform rehabilitation exercises. At the Mater Hospital in Brisbane, Professor Aileen McGonigal's pilot study of the use of smartwatch devices to record stress-induced physiological and brain rhythm changes in patients with epilepsy will help to reduce the incidence of road crashes and stress-induced epilepsy aligned to road trauma. Dr. McGonigal and her team will also receive a $40,000 cash prize to advance their innovation. In the bionic implants domain, Dr. Babek Bagiri will receive $25,000 for his Neuromat innovation. Neuromat is a liquid scaffold that forms an adhesive matrix that matches the geometry of skin defects. It provides a bridge to promote wound closure and reduce scar formation, and it is also expected to be used to stimulate nerves, to treat pain and regenerate the nerve gap created by road trauma. $25,000 will also be awarded to a North Queensland team of bionic innovators at James Cook University, entering the challenge for the first time this year. The project, led by Dr. Shu-Han Zhu, will result in a new-to-the-world device to provide an objective and comprehensive measure of apathy to complement physical rehabilitation exercise and VR/AR therapy during rehabilitation. The measurement and treatment of apathy is expected to dramatically improve the sustained recovery from road trauma. Alongside the major category prizes in Bionics Challenge 2022, MACE is providing an overall $40,000 in prizes to early stage Bionics Innovation Award winners. 2 winning teams will this year receive $20,000 each to further advance their innovations. Central Queensland University's Dr. Vanessa Bokenzian and her team of innovators will use their prize to advance e-stimulation therapies for people impacted by neurological trauma and spinal cord injuries, and develop a suite of innovative e-stimulation training and technology take-up modules to accelerate the use of e-stimulation in clinical practices across Australia. Dr. Alejandro Melendez Calderon, with his combined University of Queensland and Griffith University team, will use their $20,000 prize to co-design a modular robotic rehabilitation system to support the delivery of physical therapy to improve gait function in people with severe neurological injuries. The team will work with an industry partner to develop a therapeutic solution that facilitates different gait-related functions such as walking, stepping, sit-to-stand activities and other rehabilitation activities.
My name's Sue Tai. I'm a neuroscientist here at the Queensland Brain Institute. My team is developing closed-loop neuromodulation systems to address currently intractable disorders of the brain.
It holds great promise for other disorders of the brain, such as treatment-resistant depression, traumatic brain injury, and post-traumatic stress disorder. However, these therapeutic interventions require highly individualized and adaptive circuit therapeutic technologies. Current technologies on the market are primarily open-loop systems. This means they do not monitor or respond to changes in the brain. Their technology is currently anchored in movement disorder therapeutics. Yet we understand from the latest research over the last 10 years that progressive therapeutic changes in the brain are critical for the therapeutic intervention of psychiatric disorders such as treatment-resistant depression. The potential for deep brain stimulation to aid recovery where other therapeutic interventions are no longer effective is significant. The current costs incurred from traumatic brain injury and stress and trauma-related disorders within Australia alone are in excess of $27 billion annually. New technologies and interventions are urgently needed. We aim to address this gap through development of highly personalised and adaptive closed-loop deep brain stimulation for trauma-related stress-sensitive conditions. Our target market is the deep brain stimulation market and the neuromodulation device industry. This technology will enable improved clinical management of trauma-related stress-sensitive disorders, thereby reducing costs incurred by the healthcare system, as well as helping individuals return to employment faster. The technology innovation comes at the same time as clinical innovation in this space and the emergence of neuromodulation as a subspecialty uniting psychiatry and neurology. These changes will enable clinical uptake and use more efficiently and effectively in the future. Our technology is founded on our established closed-loop neuromodulation system, which has the capacity to monitor multiple biomarkers at any one time, including electrophysiological sensing and electrochemical sensing, to monitor both the electrical and chemical changes within the brain in real time. Over the course of this study, we will refine the artificial intelligence algorithm for state-dependent applications under high-stress states and low-stress states. And we will simultaneously reduce the computational processing load of the device itself to facilitate rapid real-time feedback control. This innovation will enable personalised circuit therapeutics for trauma-related disorders going forward. And to transition this from the bench to the bedside to industry, we have established a bench to bedside to buyer pipeline. We have an integrated translational R&D team supported by clinical and industry advisory panels, both within Australia and within the US.
To achieve this, we've brought together a team that bridges neuroscience, engineering, and clinical practice.
We have worked together over the course of the last 10 years to develop this technology and to better understand and innovate in the clinical translational space. We bring together Australia's leading innovators in precision mental health therapeutics, deep brain stimulation and circuit therapeutics, and closed-loop device development. I'm supported by Professor Abbas Kazani, Professor Michael Burke, Professor Pankaj Sah, and Professor Peter Silburn as we take this technology from the bench to the bedside and to the marketplace. The total addressable market is $13.3 billion. This represents the global neuromodulation device market, which is growing at a compounded annual growth rate of 12% per annum and expected to reach $26 billion by 2026. Within this market is the global neurostimulator implant market, growing at a similar rate of 12% per annum and expected to reach $11.4 billion by 2027. Our target market is the deep brain stimulation market. Presently, this is growing at a compounded annual growth rate of 10% and expected to reach $2.8 billion by 2028. Growth in this market is driven by innovations in technology. Our innovation will not only help to expand this market, but will enable new indications to be utilised as therapeutic targets for deep brain stimulation. For example, moving beyond treatment-resistant depression to post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury. Our work will establish proof of concept of the technology through preclinical animal studies, where we will refine biomarker and behavioural testing, algorithm development, and closed-loop device technologies. We will then take this into large animal studies for further proof of concept and safety, good laboratory practice studies. And in the final stages of this program, we will transition to human intraoperative studies for proof of concept and safety demonstrations. This will set the stage for regulatory proposals and progress to both industry and into clinical trials. The cost for this project sit at over $3 million, with $2.2 million being allocated to good laboratory practice management, as well as in excess of $1 million required to support personnel on this project, both in the laboratory and in the neural engineering space. We also require, and at the earliest stages of this project, $177,000 to support laboratory research, including the purchase of preclinical animal models and general laboratory consumables. And over the course of this study, we will also need an additional $50,000 to support equipment and facility utilization. We're excited to have the opportunity to take this technology to market, and we have an established partnership with Navonetics, who already have a device in place for use in human neurosurgical procedures that can incorporate electrochemical and electrophysiological measures for closed-loop deep brain stimulation. We have had early discussions with Boston Scientific, Abbott, and Medtronic as well, and they've expressed interest in this technology as it matures and would then engage with us in further talks to discuss licensing of the algorithms that we develop. The next steps for us potentially also include the ability to take the device itself to market. And we look forward to the opportunity to take this work from the bench to the bedside and into partnership through commercialisation pathways supported by our university commercialisation officers. I thank you for the opportunity to present this work and look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bradley Cornish and this is Matthew Worsey. We are biomechanics researchers here at Griffith University. Today, I'm pleased to show you how our smart garments are going to revolutionise rehabilitation and management of musculoskeletal conditions. Physiotherapists and exercise physiologists prescribe exercise and movement modifications to treat a wide variety of conditions. Exercise can promote tissue healing, delay disease progression, and improve a patient's quality of life. However, for a lot of conditions, conservative care has low effectiveness rates and does not meet patient satisfaction. The underlying mechanism that drives tissue adaptation is the mechanical stimulus at the tissue level, but this cannot be inferred from external loads and is highly dependent on an individual's unique morphology and muscle recruitment strategy. To personalize exercise prescription and drive optimal tissue healing, we need to be able to measure the tissue level loads, stresses and strains that are the biomarkers of exercise-induced tissue adaptations.
And this is how we do it. We use a range of expensive, technical and non-portable equipment to record human motion data. This involves lengthy setup, calibration, and participant preparation. After that, we process the data, develop computational models, and run simulations. Only then can we estimate the relevant digital biomarkers. Unfortunately, this technology is not suitable outside a research setting and has seen poor clinical uptake. But what if we can change that? From hours of setup to seconds and days of analysis to instantaneous calculations. To do that, we present the Smarty Shorts and Smarty Pants. Our smart garments combine innovations in miniaturized sensors and fabrics with artificial intelligence. The system estimates clinically important biomarkers that are specific to the rehabilitation of a patient's condition and does so with a simple-to-use system that operates in the real world. This will be a world first. Our device then relays biomarker information to the patient or rehabilitation expert. They can assess the tissue-level response to their interventions and adjust it to optimally promote healing and reduce degeneration. Our first product will be the Smarty Shorts for hip osteoarthritis. Hip loading is a primary contributor to cartilage health. Our recent work showed that when provided with biofeedback-informed movement modification, individuals can successfully modify hip loading and improve symptoms after as little as 6 weeks, but we need to move this out of the lab. Our market for the Smarty Shorts is a large number of people who suffer from hip OA, of which there are hundreds of thousands in Australia alone. We're targeting those who use smart devices, typically in their 50s and 60s, and seek physical therapy for conservative management. The Smarty Shorts will be paid for by patients, priced at around $1,000, and marketed initially as a wellness device. But clinicians will also be able to purchase a subscription to this data with the patient's consent, of course, enabling personalized interventions and offering them a competitive edge in the physiotherapy market. When we consider the success of other conservative care options, we believe our product will see considerable uptake at a similar price point. Our second product is the Smarty Pants system, a complete lower body function monitoring device that will provide objective analysis of performance and function throughout activities of daily living. This will be marketed to the aged care and general rehabilitation setting, but can also be compared with condition-specific analysis. But our product will fit into a section with no direct competitors. What sets our product apart is that it'll be the first ever commercial product to measure tissue-level biomechanics. Our solution is a single, easy-to-use garment where all sensors are contained within it. We're able to keep costs low by limiting the amount of sensors to only 5 in the Smarty Shorts design, with plans to reduce this further. To achieve this, our team spans multiple disciplines and is supervised by 2 emerging leaders at Griffith University, Dr. Pizzolato, an expert in non-invasive estimation of tissue-level biomechanics, and Dr. Diamond, an expert in hip biomechanics and pathophysiology. And the science underpinning the development of Smarty Shorts is now supported by her NHMRC fellowship. Our project is also supported by multiple institutes at Griffith University, including the Advanced Design and Prototyping Institute, ADAPT, which is in the process of implementing quality management systems to achieve ISO standard for medical devices. Our IP is the more than 10 years of comprehensive laboratory data that we've used to develop our digital biomarkers directly associated with tissue health such as cartilage degeneration. This data requires extensive training, access to laboratory equipment, and thousands of hours of data collection and analysis to recreate. We are currently conducting the co-design of our Smarty Shorts, which includes people with hip osteoarthritis and physiotherapists who have provided great feedback so far. But for the next 12 months, our plan is to recruit for studies to provide additional validation for the Smarty Shorts AI system and expand its capabilities. We'll then finalize the number of sensors and their positions to ensure accurate measurements whilst minimizing costs and components. We'll validate the Smarty Shorts AI system for monitoring of hip cartilage loading and publish our short results, but ensuring obviously we do not give away any IP threatening information. We will then manufacture 10 prototypes to assess measurement quality across a range of body shapes and sizes and develop a personalized sizing solution that still allows scalable manufacturing. We'll also invest in software solutions for deployment to mobile devices. By Q4, we expect to reach TRL 6 and be able to demonstrate our product to potential investors. We'll also complete our pilot study demonstrating the feasibility of the Smarty Shorts system in the real world. We'll work with partners to develop a strategic plan to bring the Smarty Shorts to market and move to a scalable manufacturing solution. Beyond this, we'll conduct clinical trials and work to achieve accreditation as a Class 1 medical device, develop other products such as Smarty Pants, and continue to engage with end users to create a user-friendly mobile application. The NHMRC and Griffith University funds salaries and the continued research that underpins our digital biomarkers, but we seek funding for smart garment materials, manufacturing and prototyping costs. A cash injection of $50,000 will allow us to refine our design, demonstrate a complete garment sensor software solution for real-time hip load monitoring, and complete 10 functioning Smarty Shorts prototypes. Additional funding will provide us with the necessary funds to invest in cloud-based or mobile device solutions and the app and UI development necessary for real-time biofeedback outside the laboratory. Our Smarty Shots and Smarty Pants products will be a game changer for conservative treatment of musculoskeletal conditions. It will empower patients with the ability to take control of their rehabilitation and allow clinicians to personalize their interventions. Ultimately, it will lead to improved patient outcomes, could delay or remove the need for expensive and invasive treatments that cost our healthcare system billions of dollars each year. Thank you for listening.
I'm Professor Aileen McGonigal. I'm the Director of Epilepsy Unit at Mater Hospital, Brisbane, and I'm Honorary Professor with the Faculty of Medicine, University of Queensland. So our project is dealing with investigating neurobiological and physiological changes of stress in epilepsy, and we want to work towards personalised detection and management. So epilepsy is actually the commonest chronic serious neurological disease. It affects around 30,000 patients in Queensland and around 50 million worldwide, so it's a significant problem. And epilepsy is characterised by the tendency to have recurrent seizures, and these are caused by an abnormal electrical discharge in the brain, a bit like an arrhythmia, which can cause various things. It can cause risk of falls and injury, altered awareness. Sometimes it can cause convulsions. So patients are at significant risk from this condition. And epilepsy is also very closely related to stress, anxiety and depression. And these are common occurrences which result in impaired quality of life for patients.
Yeah, so for people living with epilepsy, they tell us that stress and anxiety and depression are all part of a vicious cycle that is something that they want to get some degree of control over. As epilepsy as a condition is largely uncontrollable for a good chunk of people, and they tell us the more degree they can have of self-control over their condition, the more empowered they are to live a better life.
The goal of this project is really to study the links between the brain activity that we record in patients with epilepsy and the peripheral autonomic measurements that we can nowadays record using smartwatch devices, which are particularly linked to normal fluctuations related to stress, but also anxiety, depression and seizures themselves. So the idea is to ask patients who are undergoing stereo EEG evaluation, which is the depth electrode recording for a restricted number of patients who require pre-surgical evaluation using that method. Ask these patients to wear smartwatch devices, which will allow us to record and then download and analyse these complex signals, which we think really hold signatures to individual personalised stress responses, and possibly even personalised seizure information that might even help us to predict and detect seizures better in the future.
The seizure detection devices are certainly are getting higher on the list. We would deal with 3 or 4 inquiries a week from people in relation to assistive technology, and I think that's going to grow dramatically as more tech is available on the market.
As we all know, stress is a major risk factor for neuropsychiatric conditions such as anxiety and depression. This study provides a unique opportunity in humans to determine peripheral biomarkers such as heart rate variability and electrodermal changes that may be associated with changes in the brain rhythms. This will be a huge knowledge gain, not only to improve our neurobiological understanding of how stress impacts brain structure and function, but will also pave way for designing stress management strategies for epilepsy as well as other stress-related mood disorders which involve these brain regions. In science, we learn as much from a normally functioning system as from a system that has gone dysfunctional. Both are essential for our comprehensive understanding.
These patients have, all agreed to undergo depth electrode exploration because it's needed for their severe epilepsy that cannot be managed any other way. So they're being investigated by this specialist technique to record from deep within the brain structures, including the amygdala, the hippocampus, regions that we know are involved in stress responses. So this is very precious data, and we'd really like to make the most of that data to try and understand epilepsy and its response to and its relation to stress a bit better.
In the next few months, we will acquire a unique biological dataset. It is composed of biological activities from both inside the brain, stereoencephalography, and on the periphery, electrodermal activity, thanks to this watch. We will be able to know how the brain signals the human's emotional states and how this relates to the activity that we measure on the wrist. Such link between the two activities has never been investigated in humans. The challenge here will be to apply cutting-edge techniques from data science to uncover what the electrodermal activity is the reflection of. Time-locked data from several sources will be investigated with nonlinear autoregressive statistical models, as well as artificial neural networks that are able to find patterns in such time series.
The commercialisation possibilities, I think, are actually quite large. I think this type of result would definitely be of interest to commercial manufacturers of seizure detection devices. As you know, it's a growing market. And companies like Empatica, the market leader, also Apple, Fitbit and others would, I think, be very interested in trying to refine the existing seizure detection algorithms that we have, perhaps to detect other seizure types than we can currently do, with more accuracy as well. Also, the idea of having a kind of stress detector, which is personalised, that could lead to stress management strategies, for example, would be of great interest, I think, to not only patients with epilepsy, but also people with other chronic health conditions or even the normal population. So it might be of interest, for example, to people developing mobile apps for stress management strategies. This type of approach, I think, would, mean that the intellectual property would be discussed with a variety of potential partners.
The World Health Organization released a intersectorial global action plan in June on the topic of epilepsy and other neurological conditions, and making it a public health priority for the next 10 years. So that's a really important milestone for epilepsy care around the world, but it's also a really unique opportunity for us to get together with clinicians, with researchers and with consumers to really design a new world for people living with epilepsy together.
One, two. Just in these 2 seconds, 3 people got injured from a road accident. And sadly, in just 1 minute, 3 people will die from these injuries. Nerves in your body have a unique attribute that they transfer electrical signals. Thus, we can say they are conductive. If you get injured and lost a nerve, your body cannot repair it. Every year, approximately 1.3 million people's lives are cut short due to a road traffic crash. Studies shows that in 25% of motor accident injury, the injury leads to nerve entrapment and nerve injury as a result of the damage to these conductive cells. There are 2 conventional methods to solve the issue: nerve grafting and nerve guidance conduits. Both are highly invasive and do not have conductivity. Hence, there is a desperate need for a new solution to address this gap. My name is Dr. Babak Bagari, CTO and founder of Neuromat. We are Australia's leading medical device startup, specialized in synthesizing conductive injectable hydrogel for peripheral nerve injured people. Neuromat is a world-first biopolymer that generates a scaffold between 2 ends of the nerve gap that enables nerve signals to travel through the scaffold. This provides neural signal conductivity and an ideal environment for the nerve to heal itself and allows nerve cells to grow within its structure. Over time, the product resorbs and is replaced with healthy tissue. Neuromat is a spin-out of 10 years globally pioneering research and is supported by multiple excellent peer-reviewed publications. Neuromat's injectable hydrogel is currently the most innovative technology that is anticipated to challenge the standard of care. There is no other commercialized product which brings conductivity for neural tissue engineering. Therefore, neuromat is the world's first conductive scaffold for this purpose. The global market of tissue engineering for nerve regeneration is expected to reach $18.2 billion by 2024 from $7.5 billion in 2017, which shows a dramatic increase of nearly 12% just in 7 years. It is estimated that around 300,000 peripheral nerve repair surgeries are performed each year in Australia. There are more than 60,000 potentially preventative hospitalization post-peripheral nerve surgeries, clearly highlights the problem with current treatment approaches. The customers and intended users of Neuromat are neurosurgeons. We have the price of $1,200 per dose for Neuromat. The US reimbursement model shows that US Medicare will provide reimbursement for this type of materials for nerve regeneration. We have hired an international industry-leading regulatory consultant, and they have performed a comprehensive search on FDA database, concluding that the best regulatory strategy for Neuromat would be through 5010K exemption. The device classification in that case would be Class 2. We are using public domain IP in Neuromat, hence we do not foresee any freedom to operate issues. We are also filing a provisional patent on a new line of IP that we have developed independently using this public domain information. As an option, we plan to get an exclusive worldwide license for some additional IPs from KAIST. We have tried to bring the best and brightest to the team. I've been the scientific leader of Neuromat research. Our team also spans from product designer Dr. Puyan Bagheri from Griffith University, Dr. Ali Fathi as technology advisor and partner, and also world-leading expert in regenerative medicine advisor Professor Yuchun Kim from KAIST, and business advisor director Mr. Will Knox. To date, we have proved the concept and run the first preclinical study. We are establishing a strategic partnership with Tetratrix to design the MVP and get through pilot manufacturing to run the second preclinical study in Queensland. While trying to run the second preclinical study in Queensland, we will follow up the regulatory pathway with the help of Lindsay company, and after prototyping Neuromat, we'll go for the phase 1 preclinical studies. Neuromat has secured a strategic partnership with Tetratrix, a multi-million-dollar worth leading company in Australia, developing and commercializing regenerative solutions. They have a wet lab and clean room production facilities in Sydney. Tetratrix is strongly interested to collaborate with Neuromat team, and they are keen to provide cash and in-kind support for pilot manufacturing and clinical trials. With the help of Tetratrix as partner and CRO, Neuromat will perform pilot manufacturing and clinical investigation to extend the promising animal results to human by performing phase 1 human trials with the help of Griffith University, following phase 2 and 3 and submitting for regulatory registration in Australia. We have the option pitching to Johnson & Johnson as our potential partner for commercial rollout. We ask $60,000 to cover the cost of total project valued over $110,000. Tetratrix is contributing $50,000 in cash and $120,000 in kind support. The project will cover a second animal study in Queensland, as well as IP protection and regulatory strategy development. Thank you.
Apathy is a neuropsychiatric syndrome which is commonly seen in the neuropsychiatric clinics. Apathy is often present in traumatic brain injury patients with substantial impact on the quality of life. and often it's shown closely interact with the rehab progression. As clinicians, as well as in literature, we see three different components of apathy. First one is the affective, and then behavioral, and the third one is the cognitive apathy. But just by the presence of apathy, it can mitigate the positive effects of clinical intervention targeting the brain injuries repair, recovery, and rehabilitation, hence highlighting this syndrome. Apathy at clinical perspective as well as in literature has often been reported to prevent treatment response to traumatic brain injury patients, which can actually have a significant impact in further worsening the quality of life for both patients, families, and their caregivers. Hence, it is important to address apathy in the initial phase of traumatic brain injury treatment. Given the impact and the burden of apathy at an individual level, at a family level, at a caregiver level, at a clinician level, it is important that any further interventions targeting brain injury recovery and rehabilitation, an intervention need to be kept in mind with the current barriers of rehabilitation as well as to reduce apathy, which can improve patients' access to treatment and outcome measures.
So currently, apathy is assessed with clinical skills, such as the Dimension Apathy Scale. However, these skills are subjective and only allow for monitoring of patient engagement while they're in the clinic and not at home. Our recent research has shown that the decision-making task, where the patient has to make a choice depending on the reward and effort, can be used to provide a more objective measure of apathy. And that task, as shown here, can be gamified to improve patient engagement. So research examining the neuromechanisms of apathy show that there are alterations in the frontal striatal networks as well as in dopamine levels that are important for motivation. So in a study with TBI patients, we see decreased connectivity in the frontal regions that are colored red and blue here on this slide. So decreased connectivity between these regions is linked to higher apathy symptoms. But knowing this, we can actually target these networks with cognitive training to improve the synaptic connections using computerized games that are important at improving goal-oriented behavior, like the kitchen-related VR task. So the patient will have a choice, so you can either choose a simple task with less reward or a more complicated task with more rewards, like the golden gloves and going a level up. And such gamified cognitive games can really stimulate that cognitive control and reward that's important for improving apathy levels.
The decision making, which has been proven to detect apathy in a game-like environment, will be used along with the current apathy scales in our innovation. Our innovation is a continuous multidimensional apathy estimation algorithm using online model-based data fusion. This algorithm will be embedded inside a chip within this circuit board, which will be placed into the exoskeleton.
As noted, we'll be using an exoskeleton to allow us to measure and then calculate the biomechanical variables that will fill into our apathy estimation model. Exoskeletons are already currently used in rehabilitation, and they're slowly becoming smaller and more affordable. We envisage that as these systems become more affordable, our model will be able to use more extensively in rehabilitation. The exoskeleton will be positioned on our patient's arms while they perform the VR tasks. Accelerometers, gyroscopes, and force sensors mounted on the exoskeleton will then allow us to determine through biomechanical modelling the variables that will feed into our model.
Design of the virtual reality game and exoskeleton device will be underpinned by motor learning principles, such as goal-oriented practice approaches provided through the VR and exoskeleton device. Optimizing the challenge point of the task, which is critical in motor relearning, will be key to managing apathy levels and patient engagement. This is achieved by enabling modification of the kitchen VR task difficulty and modifiable resistance from the exoskeleton device. Data recorded from the device and filtered through an algorithm to estimate apathy levels will provide clinicians with objective data to make informed decisions about progressing or regressing patient rehabilitation.
A preliminary version of the printed circuit board that sends movement data to the wirelessly streamed internet has already been developed. The team is now looking to consult with patients and clinicians to help to embed this circuit board into an appropriate virtual reality exoskeleton device. The provider funding will be used to purchase up to 5 virtual reality devices, such that software development can be conducted in parallel with the exoskeleton design. It is envisioned that the device will be completed by the end of 2023, along with the relevant ethics approval to conduct the clinical investigation. The device will then be trialed within both clinics in Townsville and in Brisbane, with the trials to be completed at the end of 2024. The data collected from the clinical trials will then be used to seek additional funding from both Bionics Queensland and James Cook University Innovation Fund for patent and commercialization of the product in 2024. Upon successful conformity assessment, the rehabilitation device will be promoted within hospitals and clinics around Queensland, and by 2025 we aim to have a pre-market of the device in Australia and track partnership opportunities from current local and global rehabilitation robot companies. We believe that our innovative apathy estimation scale can be successful in this current market of virtual reality and exoskeleton rehabilitation robots. Our apathy measurement can help to improve rehabilitation for TBI patients and better inform clinicians about the outcome while ensuring patient compliance to their rehabilitation therapy.
We live in a world of innovation in which every day new technologies are being developed to improve people's lives. But that technology is irrelevant unless those in charge of prescribing these technologies are not actually implementing them systematically. This is our project, eSTIM, to share and evaluate an innovative electrical stimulation intervention, a new improved approach to treatment, and define patient and clinical requirements for a proposed in-home eSTIM device. 20,000 people have a spinal cord injury in Australia. When you have a spinal cord injury, there are many problems, and paralysis is the most known one. However, there are other more severe secondary complications such as bowel or bladder dysfunction, and spasticity, fatigue, circulation issues, and pressure sores, among others, that are more prevalent in people with spinal cord injury and that needs to have a solution to it. So the solution is to use eSTIM. eSTIM has been used as a successful intervention in improving musculoskeletal health, reduced spasticity, and improvements in bowel and bladder function in people with spinal cord injury. However, eSTIM is not widely accepted and is not adopted systematically. And this is partly because there's a lack of understanding of benefits, lack of familiarity on how to use eSTIM, and there's also very limited patient-centered approach. So as you can see, this project has different stages. But the main aim of this project at this point of time is to focus on stage number 2, which is to develop and commercialize e-stimulation training and technology take-up modules so we can widespread the clinical use of these eSTIM devices in allied health professionals in Australia. This will allow us to transform the lives of people with spinal cord injury. So these eSTIM training and technology take-up modules have the advantage that we're going to start building trust and familiarity about the use of eSTIM in the clinic and about the process of prescribing eSTIM to patients. What we're trying to aim is to show current and proposed new applications, increase the visibility of this eSTIM device, and have the key opinion leader and delivery engagement so we can have a rigorous market research. So this is the target market in Australia. If we can reach 10% of these allied health professionals, that could be the start of cultivating a bionics culture amongst clinicians and in turn their patients. Antonio will now talk about the eSTIM technology as part of the long-term stage with 3F partnership.
Electrical stimulation can be used, for instance, to enable physical exercise using the paralyzed limbs. Commercial systems today are available to enable cycling, rowing, walking, and other activities. And the range of benefits is large, including benefits in cardiovascular function, musculoskeletal, and prevention of metabolic diseases. Here at UQ, we are working on hardware and software solutions for e-STEAM applications. And we have partnered with 3F in this initiative. It is a company founded by pioneers in the field, and it's probably the only company today worldwide to provide a full family of e-STEAM technologies for this range of applications for people with spinal cord injury.
So our proposed e-STEAM training modules will consist of the following. We will offer a basic training of e-STEAM applications, and this could be a one-off session or payment, and this will be as part of the professional development that is required for allied health professionals to keep the APRA registration. We will then offer advanced training, and this advanced training will be in the technology, and it will also have mentoring. This will consist of an annual subscription and ongoing support, and we will have advanced training in specific areas such as FES bike or bladder and bowel functions. And then we'll offer an advanced training in streamlining NDIS funding applications. And this could be funding justifications and templates that will help the process of applying for funds to obtain the e-STEAM home devices. So in terms of the IP and regulatory strategies, Camila is going to talk about this.
The IP of the training modules initially will be shared amongst the three universities, being CQ University, UQ, and UTS, and also with 3F. As we did in previous studies, where we created training modules and had IP shared with the university, after some time, we acquired the IP back, and then the modules were commercialized via the NBN of the researchers.
This is the team of this project, and I want you to listen to Dr. Lana Popovic, who is the Chief Executive Officer of 3F.
I just want to say I'm really excited to be part of the e-STEAM team that takes part in Bionics Challenge 2022. And I accepted to be part of this team mainly because of the other individuals from the team who are world-recognized experts in FES. And I think that working together, we can really bring this beautiful technology to a whole new level.
And this is the future roadmap and timeline and budget. So we are aiming to have a budget of 60,000 so we can work on the design and development of e-STEAM training and technology take-up modules. We then gonna have to go into the step number 3, that will be the long-term stage in which we will collaborate with 3F, but that will be the next stage of our project. So Bionics Queensland will allow us to take the next step towards education, engagement, and co-design with other health professionals so we can empower people with spinal cord injury and improve the quality of life. This is our mission.
I'm going to tell you a story about John. John lives in rural Queensland and has been driving all night. He is involved in a life-changing accident and suffers severe multi-trauma, including a spinal cord injury. John is taken to his local hospital, but then where does his journey take him? John is treated within a local trauma service before a plan is made to transfer him to a specialised rehabilitation centre. However, due to a lack of bed space, he is instead sent to a mixed rehab unit after spending an extra 3 days in the acute ward. This mixed rehabilitation unit is not ideal for John. It lacks the ideal staffing ratios needed for his care and rehabilitation. It lacks the specialised equipment, and the staff are not confident or familiar with his specialised care needs. His rehabilitation stay is prolonged, but his walking and mobility training is not as intense as the evidence base supports it needs to be. So his function plateaus, and he is transferred back to rural Queensland where he does not have access to the specialised rehab program that he needs. His long-term goals of returning to live independently are not achieved. This is an acute example of the inefficiencies in our healthcare system, including the lack of equity based on your geographic location, leading to worse outcomes and significantly higher costs of care in both the short and long term. The allied health workforce in Australia is stretched thin, with a recent study showing a critical need for more physiotherapists. It is therefore imperative to ask the question, Are we working as efficiently as possible with the resources that we already have to provide the care needed for our most vulnerable patients who have the most to gain?
One way to address this problem of reduced number of rehabilitation professionals available is by using robotic trainers. And our mission is to enable the delivery of cost-effective gait rehabilitation physical therapy services across the nation and worldwide. We're working on top of more than 20 years of evidence that the technology is safe. It can achieve similar outcomes to traditional therapy. It can be cost effective, and it doesn't really steal jobs, but rather empowers the end users, the therapists and the people with disabilities, to have another tool to do rehabilitation in the way that fits them best. The issues that we currently have is that the initial investment is very high. These pieces of equipment require a lot of space. They can be complex and very intimidating to operate and use. And fundamentally, it also requires a significant change in the role of the therapist, and that's one of the reasons why it can be very difficult to take up into usual care. Robotic trainers come in many different types of devices. The more traditional and older ones are called fixed robotic trainers, so they're very big and bulky, and they tend to be expensive, and they can be very intimidating, not just for the clinician, but also the person with disability to use it. The newer devices are overground robotic exoskeletons, so these are a little bit more portable and allow us to train in more naturalistic environments, but they still require a significant amount of time for clinicians and people with disability to learn how to use them. And as you can see in the pictures, also they still require a large number of therapists to one patient. Finally, we also have robotic bodyweight support systems, but these require large infrastructure changes, so they have to be able to hang from the ceiling, and they still require lots of therapists to a single patient. So the way we're proposing to try to attack all of these or some of these problems is by using co-design. And co-design means that we bring different stakeholders in the process of rehabilitation and make sure that when we're going through the user needs, the requirements, the different iterations of the solutions, that we're considering all of the issues coming from different perspectives and making sure that as we iterate, we try to solve these issues piece by piece rather than arriving to a solution that's technically feasible but might not be clinically implementable.
Our value proposition is the ability to deliver cost-effective gait rehabilitation physical therapy services for neurological patients with minimal personnel. We want to achieve this through a product that is a modular robotic system. We want to innovate with technology that is simpler but not simplistic. We are starting with an existing product, but we want to build version 2.0 in order to implement assisted needs control based on artificial intelligence and personalized musculoskeletal modeling. We want to make this device modular in a way that users can select the different modules in order to deliver the therapy according to the different goals of the patients and stages of recovery. We want to implement software routines in order to optimize the task difficulty and implement tasks such as walking, stepping, sit to stand, etc. Our customer segments are inpatient and outpatient rehabilitation units within hospitals and rehabilitation clinics in remote areas. We will reach our customer segment by providing dedicated assistance to translate this technology in clinical practice to help them improve efficiency of their services. We have the key resources to be successful with our product. We have advanced prototyping facilities, we have the research and the clinical facilities and the equipment to perform verification and validation tests. What we need now is professional staff to help us implement the rehabilitation treatments as dictated by the user needs, demonstrate this technology in a relevant environment by clinical trials, and disseminate and protect our intellectual property.
Our partnerships are key to our success in this project. On the research side, we work with and within some of the leading research institutes in Australia, including the University of Queensland and the University of Melbourne, as well as Habitech out of Griffith University, which focuses explicitly on the translation and adoption of technologies into clinical practice. On the clinical side, we have established relationships with hospitals at Metro North, Metro South, as well as St Vincent's Hospital down here in Melbourne. And on the commercial side, we have established a collaboration agreement with For Intelligence, who are the leading provider of robotic technologies for rehabilitation worldwide. It is through For Intelligence that we envision the commercialization of our technology, using a pathway which we successfully used before as part of the EMI project. Under this model, the university or the research institute owns and protects the IP and licenses it to the technology provider. In this way, we can use and leverage the technology partner's existing distribution and manufacturing channels, ensuring our technology gets to market the quickest possible way. Our team has an ideal mix of skills and experience to tackle this problem. Alejandro is an experienced developer of rehabilitation technologies. in both research and commercial environments. Camilla is an experienced gait biomechanist who does a lot of work in the co-design and translation of clinical technologies into clinical practice. I myself have spent years designing and building exoskeletons, and I also have a background in the development of technologies and other technologies for rehabilitation. Dennis is an experienced physiotherapist, as well as a clinical educator who also goes on to educate the future generation of physiotherapists. And finally, Hang is an experienced and valuable voice of the customer. Hang himself experienced a spinal cord injury and has gone through the arduous rehabilitation process which we seek to improve. We believe, therefore, that we have the ideal mix of experience to tackle this problem and make a real difference in the lives of people.
I have the pleasure today to announce the winner of the 2022 Morgans Financial National Bionics Challenge Innovation Prize. The prize is a unique Queensland-led contest designed to fast-track medical bionic innovations and hopefully change the lives of those living with complex injuries, disabilities, and chronic disease. I'm proud to announce that this year's winner is Joe Dusseldorp and his Synchronicity team. Joe and his team are developing novel micro-implants to deliver nerve stimulation therapy to alleviate the pain and discomfort resulting from cerebral palsy or major injuries. In partnership with Bionics Queensland, Morgans is proud to support the National Bionics Innovation Prize of $30,000. We are equally excited to provide one-on-one mentorship on capital management to all Bionics Challenge 2022 winners and finalists in order to help advance their healthcare solutions. Morgans has an experienced and professional team of researchers and corporate advisors focused on the healthcare and medtech sector, and we continue to work with Australia's leading medical, bionic firms and industry innovators. We look forward to working directly with Bionics Challenge winners and finalists through the Bionics Challenge Deep Tech Mentoring Program in the coming weeks. So a big thank you to all the participants. There are some outstanding entries. A big thank you also to Robin, Kerry and Dimity for all their hard work in establishing the prize. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Joe Dusseldorp, and I'm a specialist plastic and reconstructive surgeon, and also CEO and founder of Synchronicity, a medical device design company that seeks to reimagine the way we live with disability. I want you to start by thinking about a simple question. When someone asks you to send you a text message, it's something we do without thinking. We take it for granted. The flurry of thumb motions that makes the perfect text message and sent off without a moment's thought. Some of us may do this hundreds of times a day. But what is it that enables us to do such a simple task so efficiently and so effectively? And what happens if that pathway of electrical signals from our brain to our flurrying thumbs breaks down? Cerebral palsy is the most common disability in children, affecting the arms and the limbs, affecting our ability to live independently, to move our thumbs in the way we might like, to control wheelchairs, to look at feeding ourselves and cleaning ourselves with dignity. It affects 17 million people worldwide, and still 1 in 500 babies is diagnosed with cerebral palsy. Of those diagnosed, 1 in 3 will never walk. And that's because the tight muscles that affect not just the arms, but also the legs, limit the ability to move freely and to enjoy the use of our muscles like all of us take for granted in our daily lives. Beyond that, it's extremely expensive to treat someone living with cerebral palsy, estimated in 2003 US dollars to be around $1 million per patient over lifetime cost. And unfortunately, those treatments don't work at relieving spasticity or improving independence. The problem that we seek to fix is that millions of people living with spasticity want relief from the pain and difficulty of contracted limbs by gaining meaningful control over their muscle tone without major surgery or repeated painful injections. Sadly, the most common treatment at the moment is either severing those nerves that are overactive or using neurotoxins like Botox. Neither of these treatments actually turns the impulses off that are causing the problem in a way that enables you to then turn it back on again. And the painful injections may take 2 weeks to come into effect, last about 12 weeks, and then wear off completely. So our challenge is to come up with a solution that enables this. What if we could just inject something tiny once under the skin next to the nerve, send signals to it to block spasticity, and turn it up and down much like a dimmer switch? We want every kid living with spasticity to have the opportunity to have personalized, real-time control of their muscle tone, preventing painful chronic symptoms from setting in. And our solution looks like this: tiny grain of rice-sized electrodes that are non-wired, implanted via a non-clinician injector, sit underneath the skin and receive signals from a control mechanism which is implanted in a smart textile and controlled by a smartphone application which is at their own disposal. Not only is this solution extremely effective, but it could also be extremely cost effective. Botox injections themselves have been shown to cost around $4,500 per year for life and are only effective for 50 to 70% of the time between injections. So invasive surgeries are very expensive, and we've shown through a cost effectiveness analysis that if implanted from the age of 5, our device would save around $100,000 compared to no treatment and give additional years of quality adjusted life years, around 4 years. Not to mention that the implants themselves would be much cheaper to produce than many other implanted pulse generators, such as cochlear implants or spinal cord stimulators, being much more simple in their device design. Furthermore, our team can do this. We have experienced industry partners such as John Paul McEwen, our CTO. We have academic partners in Professor Alistair McEwen from the University of Sydney, who is also the Ainsworth Chair of Technology and Innovation at the Cerebral Palsy Alliance, and Professor James Fallon, who is a consultant from Bionica, the commercialisation arm of the Bionics Institute and the University of Melbourne. And we have currently designed with James an electrode that can achieve this outcome. We have numerous partners, collaborators and funders, including New South Wales Health through the commercialisation training program, SCADA Innovations, who facilitated that training, and the Cerebral Palsy Alliance, who really are our pipeline into the patients who will most benefit from this treatment. In developing the device, we have had support from Flinders University and the Medical Device Partnering Program in South Australia and Bionica in Victoria, who have both awarded us with grants and additional engineering support to facilitate development of our prototype. We have won the Big Idea in 2022 through Sydney Local Health District and New South Wales Health, University of Sydney, which has enabled us to characterise our unmet patient need and get us to the medical device prototyping stage. And we are targeting partnerships with existing players in the future to leverage existing sales infrastructure such as big medical device companies. And we will first achieve regulatory approval as a Class 3 active implantable device and go through pre-market authorization in the US as our regulatory plan. And we have consulted with regulatory advisors and also IP attorneys to perform our landscape search. In terms of a market size, there are 17 million people worldwide living with cerebral palsy. The total addressable market of those would be 14 million. In Australia, we are looking at a much smaller, serviceable, attainable market of young people living in Australia, which we could directly target. And we know that these patients are already linked in with the Cerebral Palsy Alliance. But furthermore than that, the World Health Organization estimates that 1 in 7 people in the world live with some form of disability. That is 15% or 1 billion people on the planet. It's not just cerebral palsy that would benefit from such a device. We have other motor conditions such as stroke, prosthetic limb function and facial palsy, to name a few, as well as sensory conditions such as chronic pain that could benefit from this treatment. We have a timeline that is extending into 2023 for product development and then culminating in clinical trials in 2025. We have other key milestones, including our ISO 13485 accreditation that we are moving towards by the end of next year, and we'll be filing our IP protection strategy towards the end of 2023 as well. If successful, we would aim to put the $30,000 National Bionics Prize to proposed animal experiments and also completing our landscape search and IP plan, which those 2 steps would get us to being hopefully successful for CTCM or MDF funding to the tune of $500 to $1.5 million, which would really get us to the point of having a usable and effective prototype, which we could take to our clinical trial testing phase. And thank you for your time. It's my very great pleasure to accept the award of the National Bionics Prize in 2022. My name is Joe Dusseldorp and I'm a plastic and reconstructive surgeon and also the CEO and founder of Synchronicity, a novel medical device company that seeks to reimagine living with disability for people living with cerebral palsy, stroke, spinal cord injury and other neurological conditions. Everyone in my team shares the same vision, that we can utilise modern advancements in technology to improve the lives of our patients and people living with disability. We understand that there are so many things happening in the fields of miniaturization of electrodes, wireless transfer of power, smart textiles, and AI-enabled devices to control these algorithms. We need to work hard to push these into the current medical landscape to make sure these devices can actually see their way into the hands of the people who need them the most. With the funding from the National Bionics Prize, courtesy of Morgans, we will be able to take one step further towards making this type of technology a reality for patients. But more than that, we'll also spread the word to the ecosystem that bionics is not something for the future, it's something for now. We already have bionics devices in our worlds, in our lives, in cochlear implants and pacemakers, in hypoglossal nerve stimulators, and we are seeing seismic shifts in our ability to treat conditions like chronic pain as well. And so it's only one step further that we take these devices to then help other patients and really reimagine the way we deliver healthcare. And that most exciting part of that for me is putting the control of these symptoms back into the hands of the people who are living with these conditions and enabling them to take control of their own healthcare. So I thank you very much for this prize, and I look forward to sharing our progress with you as we move to the next stage of this development process, and thanks again.
Well, Robin, I think that's a wrap for Bionics Queensland's challenge for 2022. What an exciting series we've had looking at these various entrants and their contribution they're hoping to make to Bionics. So wonderful to support you all, so wonderful to have the help from all of our judges, the help from Big Voice Media, and of course, Kerry, thank you to you, and Dimity as Chair of Bionics Queensland as well. And thank you to you, those people who have tuned in, support us, our sponsors, and of course those who are in the broader Bionics family and community. Just so wonderful to be a small part of helping those that we've been able to touch along. And Robin, to you personally, absolute massive effort and big lift from you every year to pull it together, and can't wait to see what can be made of this in 2023. Bigger, better, bolder. Any last parting thoughts?
Yes, Mark, it has been really exciting, and I think that it's timely for me to thank some incredible sponsors that have been involved all the way through this competition, and I'd thank their FB Rice, who have been the IP navigators, if you like, for many of our teams, both last year and as this year as well, where the FB Rice team will be directly engaged with each team, providing mentoring on looking at freedom to operate, looking at trademarking, looking at patent mapping, and where is the next steps for each team to take to ensure the IP is protected so that they can take these innovations to market. I'd also thank Tiller Design, who really have quite a canvas of projects that they've worked on already in the medical device space, and will bring an enormous amount, Mark, to this year's teams in the advisory part of the challenge that's yet to come. And of course, again, a final thank you to MACE, the Motor Accident Insurance Commission, for their incredible support to Bionics Queensland, and for Morgans Financial, who have enabled us to put the National Bionics Innovation Prize in place, and also the Clem Jones Foundation for their wonderful support with the Young Aspiring Neuroscientist Award. So thank you so much to all of those sponsors. It's been a suite of fantastic partnerships to take us forward.
Fantastic. So I think with that, Robin, it's a wrap for Bionics Queensland Challenge 2022. Thank you for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next year.
Indeed. Goodbye.